Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today's class is the dural folds. This is an important topic in the head and neck region. We have already completed the scalp, face, parotid gland in the head and neck region. Those who have not seen the classes of the previous head and neck region, so you first try to see the classes, then come to the cranial cavity, and in the cranial cavity, first topic is this dural folds. Those who have not subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so that you will see the continuation of the gross anatomy lectures, histology and embryology. Now we will start with the dural folds in the cranial cavity. Before we see the discussion of the dural folds, we will see that differences between the cranial dura mater and the spinal dura mater. It was asked us one time short notes in the university exam. Cranial dura is made of two layers, endosteal and meningeal layer. Spinal dura is only one layer, meningeal layer. So this cranial dura, in the cranial dura, this endosteal dura mater is the acting as the periosteum of the skull. So there is no epidural space. In the spinal dura, epidural space is present. And in the cranial cavity, dural folds or dural processes are formed by the meningeal layer. There are no dural folds in the spinal dura mater. As here we have two dura mater, endosteal and meningeal. We have dural venous sinuses between the two layers. There are no dural venous sinuses in the spinal dura mater. So these are the differences between the cranial dura and the spinal dura. So four dural folds or dural processes are formed by meningeal layer. So this point should be taken note by the students. So this meningeal layer is forming the dural folds, and the endosteal layer is forming the periosteum of the skull. So what are the dural folds? Falx cerebri, tentorium cerebelli, diaphragma ocelli, falx cerebelli. So these may be asked as short notes or very short notes. Short notes will be falx cerebri and tentorium cerebelli. Very short notes will be diaphragma ocelli or the falx cerebelli. Falx means sickle shaped. So it is a sickle shaped fold. Cerebri. So it is in between the two cerebral hemispheres. It is present in the median longitudinal fissure which separates the cerebral hemispheres. So it projects mid-sagittally from the roof of the skull. So before we see the details of the falx cerebri, so now why these dural folds are present in the cranial cavity? As if this is between two cerebral hemispheres, some dural fold between two cerebellar hemispheres. So some dural folds separating the cerebrum and cerebellum. Why these dural folds are present in the cranial cavity? So these dural folds are making the cranial cavity into compartmental. So that's the reason this dural folds prevent the extraordinary motion between the parts of the brain. So this you can just understand the logic. For example, if you keep the things in one box and just shake it, otherwise you will have the compartmental box. Then if you shake it, so that you can understand the difference between the two boxes. Like this, now these dural folds are dividing the cranial cavity into compartments. So this is the falx cerebri. If you remove the brain intact and keep the dural folds with the cranial vault, then you can see like this. So this is the falx cerebri, and this is the tentorium cerebelli. This 5 is the tentorium cerebelli. 4 and 5 are the tentorium cerebelli. So this falx presents, this is the narrow anterior end and broader posterior end, and it has upper convex margin and lower concave margin. So these are the presenting parts of the falx cerebri. Anterior end is narrow and it is fixed to the crista galli of ethmoid bone. Do you know what is the meaning of crista galli? how this word is derived. So this word is derived from the Latin crista galli, means cock's comb. C-O-C-K-S, cock's comb. It resembles the comb of a cock. So that is why it is called crista galli. The broader posterior end is attached with the upper surface of the tentorium cerebelli in the midline. So this fox is attached to another dural fold. The dural fold is the tentorium cerebelli. The convex margin is attached to the cranial vault where this sagittal, superior sagittal sinus is present. They produce this sagittal sulcus. So that along the lips of the sagittal sulcus, this convex upper margin is attached. So this is how, again, we are seeing this anterior end, posterior end. Posterior end is attached to the tentorium cerebelli. So this upper end, upper convex margin is attached to the sagittal sulcus, where the superior sagittal sinus is situated. The lower concave margin is free, it is not attached. So comes in contact with what part of this brain is the corpus callosum. Comes in contact with corpus callosum in the posterior part. So if you are asked this dural folds, you have to write the presenting ends, margins, then you have to write what are the sinuses related to the dural fold. So now to this fox cerebri, what are the sinuses related are superior sagittal sinus along the upper margin, inferior sagittal sinus along the inferior margin, at the junction of fox and tentorium, straight sinus. So these are the sinuses in the fox cerebri. So this completes the fox cerebri. Fox cerebri is in between the two cerebral hemispheres. Tentorium cerebelli. Why named so? Tent for cerebellum. It's a one-poled tent. There are so many varieties of tents you should be knowing. So this is one-poled tent. What is this? Why this is resembling one-poled tent for the cerebellar hemispheres? This upper attachment of the fox cerebri to the upper surface of the tentorium cerebelli pulls the tentorium cerebelli above so that it resembles the one-poled tent for the cerebellar hemispheres. So that's why it is named so. Situation, it projects in a transverse fissure which intervenes between the occipital lobes of the cerebrum and the cerebellum. So the student should understand which dural folds are present vertically, which dural folds are present transversely. So the basic difference they should understand. Fox is vertically placed dural fold. The tentorium is transversely placed. So it separates the occipital lobes of the cerebrum and the cerebellum. Why named so? The midline attachment of the fox cerebri to the upper surface of the tentorium draws the tentorium upwards. So it resembles one-poled tent for the cerebellum. So this is the, again same, this is the model of the dural folds. So this is the fox cerebri and this is the tentorium cerebelli. So this is fox attached to the upper surface of the tentorium. Now you concentrate on the tentorium cerebelli. Tentorium presents an attached margin. So it is attached here to the posterior part and to the lateral part. And it presents free margin. So this is the free margin. So only half is seen. That side half of the tentorium is not seen because of this fox cerebri. So first you have to understand attached margin at the periphery and free margin in the front in the midline. So in this you can understand the attached margin clearly. So this is the attached margin. This is the attachment of the tentorium posterior part and this is the attachment of the tentorium in the lateral part. And this is the free margin. Posteriorly, it is attached to the transverse sulcus of occipital bone. Can you see the transverse sinus marked here? So it produces this groove in this occipital bone that will be called transverse sulcus. So here same like falx cerebri, it is attached to the sagittal sulcus. Here it is attached to the transverse sulcus of the occipital bone. Laterally, it is the, what is this bone is the petrous temporal bone. So it is attached to the upper border of the petrous temporal bone. So these are the two attachments of the tentorium cerebelli. Anterior ends, if you see, this is attached to the posterior clinoid process. So here, it is attached to the posterior clinoid process of dorsum sellae of the sphenoid bone. Free margin. So the free margin is free. It is not attached to any bones. This free margin anterior ends are attached to the anterior clinoid process. So attached margin is up to posterior clinoid process. Free margin is extending up to anterior clinoid process. So this free margin presents a notch. So this is the U-shaped tentorial notch or incisurae. So here occupied by the midbrain and a part of the superior vermis of the cerebellum. So if you see in the intact cranium, here will be the situation of the midbrain and the superior vermis of the cerebellum. So in relation to this tentorium cerebelli, we should see the Meckel's cave or cavum trigeminale. It's a cave for the trigeminal ganglion. So its other name is Meckel's cave. So it may be asked as very short notes. It's a blind pouch in the middle cranial fossa below the superior petrosal sinus. How it is formed. So this is the situation. You can put the heading here. Here formation formed by the projection of inferior layer of tentorium so that to the little lateral to the area of crossing of the two margins. So this inferior layer is projecting where the two margins cross each other. So this is the diagram for the Meckel's cave. This is the petrous temporal bone, and this is the endosteal layer, and then this is the meningeal layer. So this is the green color is meningeal layer. That is the tentorium cerebelli, inferior layer of tentorium. It is projecting as a pouch. So below the superior petrosal sinus. So this blue color is the superior petrosal sinus present in the petrous temporal bone in relation to the petrous temporal bone. It contains the trigeminal ganglion, and these are the two roots of the trigeminal nerve, motor root and the sensory root. Black color is motor root, this is the sensory root, and these are the divisions of the trigeminal nerve. If you see the roof of this Meckel's cave, it is made of two meningeal layers. It's marked by two green colored layers, and its floor is formed by one meningeal layer and one endosteal layer. Contains the sensory ganglia and the sensory and motor roots of the trigeminal nerve. So you can put a situation, formation, features and contents for these 4 points of the Meckel's cave. So this finishes the tentorium cerebelli. Diaphragma sellae, it's a small, very short notes. It's a diaphragm for the sella turcica. So you should know the sella turcica in the middle cranial fossa. So because it is like diaphragm for the sella turcica, it is called diaphragma sellae. Again, it is transversely oriented or horizontally oriented. Its shape is circular. It forms the roof of the sella turcica and it's perforated in the center by the pituitary stalk. So if you see, this part will be called as the sella turcica. This is the anterior clinoid process. This is the posterior clinoid process, and this together total this part will be called as sella turcica. Do you know why it is called sella turcica? Let's find out why it is called sella turcica. All these names and all will be given in the clinical anatomy books. It will be an interesting part to learn why it is called so, why it is called like clinoid process. What is the meaning of clinoid process? Why this crista galli is called as crista galli? So all this you try to learn in the clinical anatomy book. So this forms the roof of the sella turcica and it's perforated in the center by the infundibular stalk of the hypophysis. So this is like this diaphragma sellae is present. The fold is attached in front to the tuberculum cellae and behind to the dorsum cellae. So this part will be called dorsum cellae and this part will be called tuberculum cellae. It contains the circular intercavernous sinus. On either side, two cavernous sinuses are present. Connecting the two cavernous sinuses, anterior intercavernous sinus and posterior intercavernous sinus, so that they form the circular intercavernous sinus along the attached margins. Fox cerebelli. So this is like same like fox cerebri, fox cerebelli. So this is the fox in between the two cerebellar hemispheres. It's a sickle-shaped process which lies below the tentorium, extends forwards from the internal occipital crest to the posterior cerebellar notch. Base of the fold is attached mid-sagittally to the inferior surface of the tentorium. Apex is direct to the posterior margin of the foramen magnum. So this completes the dural folds. So as we have already told why these dural folds or dural processes are present, they divide the cranial cavity into three compartments, two supratentorial and one infratentorial, and these dural processes provide rooms for the accommodation of the dural venous sinuses. So we have learnt in detail in this class about the dural folds. First we started with the difference between the two parts of the dura mater, cranial dura and the spinal dura. Then we started with the dural folds, fox cerebri, tentorium cerebelli, diaphragma cellae and fox cerebelli. So we will see in the next class dural venous sinuses, which is also an important topic in the head and neck region. Head and neck region, you follow this order of the classes. First you learn the scalp, face, parotid gland, then you start with the cranial cavity. In the cranial cavity, dural folds, dural venous sinuses, pituitary gland, then we have to go to the extraocular muscles. So those who are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so that you will receive the continuation of the embryology class, continuation of this head and neck classes and also the embryology and histology classes.